Further ado, let's get this going. Uh, all right, everyone. Welcome to the Deep Tech Showcase IoT Edge Cloud and Cyber Showcase. It's quite the mouthful, but we'll make it through it. Today's agenda. We're starting now with the opening remarks and meet the panel. After that, we're going to have two sessions. What is the vision? Why are we doing this? It's a good question. Basically, what we see is there's a lot of really interesting technology out there, especially nowadays. It's just exponential. That tech is just developing on itself. And what happens is that a lot of the times companies need to get discovered in order to maximize their potential, in order to really grow and come into their own and make it to commercialization. So our goal is to take deep tech startups that are doing something novel, innovative, dual use a lot of the time, and bring it to the forefront and see if we can make the connections, give them feedback, and get them to the next stage. So, who's in the ecosystem? It's startups, tech scouts from both government and corporations, as well as investors. Showcase events, you're on one right now. Basically, what we do is we take somewhere between 10 to 18 companies and we have them go kind of speed dating style, 5-minute pitch followed by 5 minutes of Q&A. And what's going to happen is the panel here is going to ask questions and, kind of get insight and give feedback to the company. And you, the audience, will be able to also, there is a Q&A if you want to ask, feel free to. Can't promise we get to every single question, but that being said, we try to include everyone, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to see a lot of different technologies today. The other part of this is that after the showcases or between the showcases, we also do guided introductions. So if you're in the audience today and you see a company that you think is, oh, that's really cool, I'd love to talk to them, let us know. We're more than happy to make the connection if relevant. That being said, if you're selling a product or something that's not necessarily so relevant, we might filter it out. Full disclosure, it makes sense. The upcoming showcases that we have are Energy and Clean Tech Showcase, as well as the Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0, for those who don't know what exactly that is, it's basically a fancy word for anything that's automating the industrial processes. So that's 3D printing, machining, anything that's really, bringing it to the next level, bringing, that tech forward. All right. So now I'm going to hand the reins over to Mitch Gold from our sister company, Eagle Point Funding, and he's going to talk a little bit about what they're doing on the grant writing side. Mitch, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's great to meet everyone. My name is Mitch Gold. I work here at Eagle Point Funding. So we work in hand with Deep Tech Showcase, but on the federal R&D grant application side. So we help the deep tech companies engage and help with their applications to the various federal agencies. So we help them in two main ways. The first way is identification. So we pair you with a consultant when we engage the most relevant person who will then go and identify all the relevant open opportunities that match with your technology. We want to be able to submit around every 4 to 6 weeks over a 9 or 18-month period. So we really want to get out as many applications as possible to get the highest ROI for you all. The second part in how we do that is, of course, the grant writing, the grant consulting, and the project management. So actually helping you not only with templates, but help you with the writing of the application and help you with that process all the way through. So there are a lot of good opportunities that are open now, like the National Science Foundation, that are always looking for innovative technology, or the National Security Innovation Capital specific for hardware technologies. So these are great opportunities, especially for what we're speaking about tonight. And a lot of what we do is when we are writing these applications, we help translate your technology to each agency. So as you can see, our keys to winning that federal grant is first knowing the system, as we mentioned, so finding the right opportunities that fit your tech and then applying to multiple different opportunities, and most importantly, engaging and telling each agency how you're going to benefit them specifically. So we are happy to engage with any industry, any technology, and I'm happy to meet with anyone. If you have any questions, my information is on there. There might be something blocking, but all right, there is a QR code there. So if you do want to scan, that will go straight to my calendar. I'm happy to speak with anyone. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Thank you, Osher. I appreciate the time.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, Mitch.
Absolutely.
All right. In that case, we're gonna move forward, and just everyone who's on the call, make sure that you're muted because we're getting a little bit of feedback. There we go. Session one, we're gonna have opening presentation and introduce the panel, hopefully. Then we're gonna have BitRip, followed by Jeeva, followed by Compute, followed by Knightscope. Session two, we're gonna have Solar Synapse, Blastwave, QuoLab, Birdstop. All right. So I'm gonna quickly go around because we have a good amount of time. I got through that. Mitch and I gotta give credit where credit's due. I've gotten through the initial talk pretty fast. So what we can do is we can have each panelist introduce themselves, tell them a little bit about their background and go from there. So we're gonna start with Daria. Daria, you want to say hello?
Hi, my name is Daria Bai. I'm the Director of Investor and Partner Relations at Naples Technology Ventures. We invest in B2B SaaS companies in the seed and Series A stage, primarily in fintech, health tech, insurtech, and regtech.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining. After that, Carl, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Thanks, Asher. Great to be back. Carl here with BDev Ventures. I'm an associate in New York City. Previously worked in deep tech at McKinsey and now been investing in B2B software seed through Series A here at BDev.
Perfect. Thank you for joining. Just bear with me, everyone. John, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. All right.
Oops. Oh, sorry,
There's-
John Richmond. Sorry, I have to be more specific.
I've had some trouble with Zoom lately. You can hear me all right, Asher?
Yep, loud and clear.
I'm John Richmond. I'm a senior investment associate for Lockheed Martin Ventures. I invest on behalf of Lockheed Martin Space in our missiles and fire control business. And I cover 4 of our technology verticals. So comm and 5G, cybersecurity, sensor technologies, and quantum technologies. But we also look at Internet of Things, manufacturing, basically anything related to what Lockheed Martin's core businesses are. We're probably investing in startups that would support that.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Jonathan Wu. Sorry about that. Your turn now.
So John from ITIC. So ITIC is the venture arm of E3, which have some notable spin-offs such as TSMC, UMC, and AUO throughout the years. And we invest typically in C stage all the way to Series A. And interesting, generally overall deep tech, so including semiconductor, IoT, AI, material science, etc. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, Han, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. No, also it's a pleasure and honor to be part of this great program, Deep Tech Showcase here. Thanks for putting this together again. Han Ko, company name Yusaco Group. You can see the logo behind me. We are a VC firm, but we have what's unique about it is that we have a platform across the globe. So that we pretty active in working. We headquartered in the USA, but we have office all the way in South Korea, and we're closely working with the European office as well, and of course Israeli companies as well. So our interest includes of course typical AI, and then e-commerce, the healthcare field, and all that. And I am just to feel privileged to be with you all. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining. All right, Samira, last but not least, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, this is Samira Curtin, and I'm calling right now from somewhere in a hotel, so I'm sorry if there is any noise in the background. I am running QuoLab Ventures, and so far we have done five investments, and I had 1 exit in the last 3-4 years, and yes, I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you. All right. Thank you everyone for joining. With that, we're gonna jump right in, get started with BitRip. Give me one second. I'll allow screen sharing in a second. All right. It should be good to go.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. All right, everyone can see my screen?
Yep. Not
Slide
presentation mode yet, but we can see the
There we go.
PowerPoint.
We're shooting
Now we can see presentation mode.
All right, good to go. All right, let's see, it is afternoon for most people, so I'd say afternoon, everyone. My name's Nick. This will be a real quick 5-minute demonstration or 5-minute presentation on BitRip. So quick background on me. Currently, I am the CEO of BitRip. I have a couple of my fellow BitRip team on this call with me. I was a former Marine. You can probably tell I was a Marine just by judging by the picture to word ratio of the slide deck. So Marines like big pictures and not a lot of words. So I used to fly the Aviate Harrier that you can see pictured, but I was also a logistics guy. So in charge of all the logistics for these squadrons. Between my time here at BitRip and the Marine Corps, I attended Harvard Business School in 2018 to 2020. So if I had to break down what my job was as a logistics officer, it would be to supervise the movement of expensive stuff, basically. At the time when I was in the squadron, we did that with pen and paper spreadsheets, very basic tools that were good in the fact that they were simple, but they were highly inefficient, prone to error. And I would never want to admit fully to the people in this room as good taxpayers how much money went down the drain by losing very, very expensive equipment, moving from Arizona to Afghanistan and all sorts of exercises. So I wanted to fix that in 2013. And I wanted a digital accountability system. So I went off and looked for it. I had a very simple wish list. As Marines are, we're pretty no-nonsense individuals, and I think that's pretty much expected across the military. So I wanted something simple. I could learn in a day, teach my Marines the second day, and have the system up and running by the third day. I didn't want any extra equipment. I didn't want a Zebra barcode scanner that was $3,000 and would get lost the next day. I didn't want any printing. And I just didn't want a very enterprisey looking solution. Just would not fit my needs in the Marine Corps. Last but not least, I wanted a system that was accessible. What do I mean by accessible? I mean, I wanted a system that wasn't just a master sergeant could use it, and when the master sergeant was away, we all had to sit there and twiddle our thumbs until he or she came back. I wanted a system that incorporated everyone, from the master sergeant all the way to the brand new specialist coming out of school. I can tell you that with the months of research, I did not find the system I wanted, and I had to go back to the pen and paper spreadsheet way. So a few years ago, we invented BitRip, which is a patented type of scan and track system that operates on Android, iOS, as well as desktop. If I had to break down BitRip into a nutshell, it is a roll of pre-printed, rugged, scannable labels. You scan the label, and every single one of those things is their own individual digital storage locker. You can upload anything you want to it, unlimited amount of data to it. And when you scan it, it also tracks location. And so as we affectionately get called in the world of construction, is we are QR code on steroids. So as I just mentioned there, we've taken off quite a bit in construction. So we have over 1,500 customers across most of the United States, Canada, but also Europe and South America. The reason why people like us is because we greatly streamline their tech stack, given how much we can track with just one system. So if you look over to the left, Rosenthal, top 5 electrical contractor in the US. They use BitRip to track all their prefab material when it leaves the warehouse to the job site. And so they never have to worry about trying to find where that material is and having to replace it when it gets lost. A company here in Texas, more local to where we're at, Big State Electric, they use us to track all their safety. So think fire extinguishers, forklift truck inspections, defibrillators, harnesses, you name it. They put safety forms, they upload into this bit, someone scans it, fills out the safety form, hits save, it gets saved in the cloud, it's all put in one place, and it makes inspections a breeze. Moving over to the far right, Ferguson, top 5 HVAC company, they put all their maintenance records on the equipment so that the next technician that comes along scans a tag, has everything they need to know about that equipment. They never have to call back or scratch their head and try and figure out what's been done. So think about that. One very, very simple tool.
Thank you. We connected. I got good.
So I'm getting a little bit of feedback, but one tool, very simple, that anyone can pick up and learn, solving 3 separate problems. And instead of having to buy 3 separate solutions and have a ridiculously big tech stack, BitRip solved it all with a very, very simple tool. So our big ask, and I didn't quite know the audience today, but one of the biggest asks we have is we're making some headways in construction and in manufacturing logistics. But in the military, we would really be very eager to run some very low risk tomorrow pilots that help you track anything. And it doesn't matter what it is, something very lightweight that we can prove our value, and then we can kind of open up the door into the DoD. Here are some frequently asked questions, but I wanted to open it up to everyone because I know I'm hitting my 5-minute mark exactly, and I always like to be on time. So I'm ready for question and answer.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nick. And just to, Han is already on the game because he's done this a few times. But for those who want to ask questions, just we do it in the order of hand raised on Zoom. So if you want to use it's under reactions, sometimes it's a little hard to find. But if it doesn't work, let me know and I'll get to you, I promise. All right, Han, you're up.
Great, thanks. Hey, that was a great presentation and a great technology right there. Just 2 quick questions here. So first of all, do you have any IP filed, patent or IP protection filed on this? And second question is that, are you trying to do business with military or already are your products already in military? Because actually, for example, my son, he's in U.S. Navy logistics officer. I mean, we actually talked something about this in the past in general term. But anyway, yeah, this is a great solution. So maybe when you get a chance to talk about that, it'd be great.
Yeah, Han, great to meet you and great questions. So number one, yes, we do have a patent. It's been granted by the Patent Office. The patent belongs to the MIT company I used to work for. However, we negotiated an exclusive forever license to that patent. Given that I wrote the patent with Catherine, so we have forever access, exclusive access. The patent covers machine readable code on labels and tape, but it also patents the computer system on top of the labeling system. And to your second point, I'd love to meet your son. We have not made business yet with the military. It's a market that we're very desperate to get into. I originally designed BitRip to go after the military, right? That's what I wanted to do. That's what we wanted to do. That's what I was instructed to do when we were part of this MIT outfit. But construction logistics pulled us away very quickly. And if you're a founder, B2B is a lot more enticing than B2G. It's just quicker. And so we've really attacked construction over the past 2 or 3 years. But I'd love to meet your son because I really want to make this a military solution. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your service as well. You're a brilliant man. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. I know that's Samira, and then after that, John, if he still has a question.
Hi, Nick. Thank you so much for your presentation. And yeah, great work you guys are doing. Could you a little bit explain about your market, so TAMs, and a little bit on business planning, like who you guys are aiming and what is your basically how do you target the market?
Did someone hear that? I had a little trouble hearing that.
Yeah, I
question.
think she wanted to know a
Yeah.
little bit more about the market that you're in. So like the TAM, the SAM, what's the total addressable market and
So to be completely honest with you, it's been a little bit of a while since we crunched that calculation. When we were thinking ourselves as just purely handling logistics and materials, the TAM was, in the double-digit billions. I think at the last time we looked at it, I think it was in the order of 60 billion. But I'll be honest, a lot's happened since then. So one thing that we have done is because we offer a very unique patented connection between digital and physical, and we've actually leaned into the idea that we cannot just be a BitRip solution for the BitRip platform, but also an integration platform. So any software can plug into our patented connection capability with QR code. That kind of opened up the TAM significantly because it kind of put every industry in our lap to start plugging in. And so we have done our first integration with Smartsheet, and we're looking to do our second, third integration this year. So that's kind of a long-winded way of saying I did TAM a long time ago when we were actively raising, and I've let it kind of go a little bit. So I would hesitate to give you a number, but given that we're sort of a unique patented connection platform between digital and physical, I'd be pretty confident to say that the TAM is there. But so apologies if that's not quite the answer you're looking for. It's kind of a very straight figure in front of me.
Thank you.
all right. John, did you have a question? Otherwise, I'll ask the one in the chat.
Yeah, mine were on pricing and the difference between QR code. Both are answered here. Appreciate that.
I'll answer that question. So pricing. So we entered into a partnership with the makers of duct tape. So if you go into a tape aisle in every Home Depot, Lowe's, and you see duct tape, that's the people who make us. And they have partnered with us to both manufacture and sell. So now we're sold in Home Depot and White Cap, Ram Tool, Arsenal, all the big chains are selling us. We're sold nationwide. We get a 10% royalty on every roll of tape they sell. A roll of tape is 100 labels that go from $100 to $200 a roll, so $2 a label. So we get that revenue in royalty, and we also charge $90 per seat per user for the Desktop Pro software. So that's the recurring revenue piece. And the mobile app is free. So that kind of helps people get into the ecosystem very easily. No cost barrier there. And then we charge for the Desktop Pro. So we have the royalty from the tape as well as the subscription revenue. The big difference between us and QR code. I know I could go on for a long time with this one. So think of it like this. QR code is you create the data, and then once you've created the data in the website, then you make a QR code that goes to that data. So you have to build it all in the office, print out the QR codes, and then go out and try and match the digital world with the physical world. And it's kind of very tedious and takes a long time. With our code, every single code is a free agent. You stick it on anything, you scan it, and it immediately makes the connection at the time you're in front of the asset. And then you can add unlimited amount of data onto that sticker. You can redirect that sticker to point to anything else. And you can bring in a brand new piece of sticker and rescan that data onto it. So essentially, you're making the connections while in the field, as opposed to having to be in the office and doing a bunch of printing and a bunch of reconfiguration in the office. So we're bringing that connection from the office into the field and making it ridiculously easy. So we've essentially taken QR code, reordered the steps, and patented it to make a very, very easy to go asset tagging barcode. So our vision with that is that every single asset on Earth should have a BitRip fingerprint on it that tracks the unique identity of that asset. And the only way you can really do that is with our technology, not with traditional barcode or QR code. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nick. It looks like you have questions in the Q&A and also the chat. So make sure to get to all of them. Also, feel free to leave your information in the chat as well. Happy, yeah. If you want to leave email, LinkedIn link, whatever, it's up to you. But I think there are a few people who want to talk to you further and had some questions. Next up, presenting, we're gonna have Jeeva Wireless. Perfect.
All right, thanks, Asher. Hearing me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
So thanks all for the opportunity to chat. Jeeva is providing a new set of tools in the arsenal of hardware engineers and product designers. These are hardware building blocks for communicating wirelessly at extremely low power. So whether it's an Apple Pencil streaming data wirelessly to an iPad, whether it's a need to understand the current state of machine health on a complex piece of equipment in flight or on the factory floor, or whether it's an interest in understanding location and environmental condition of palletized equipment, there's actually a common pain point when trying to move from wired to wireless sensor technologies, and that is the size, cost, and hassle of batteries and battery replacement. So what's the problem? Radios actually consume a lot of power. 85 to 95% of a typical wireless sensor node or peripheral device's battery just goes to moving the data across the wireless link. So this is particularly problematic in high bandwidth links where there's a lot of data moving, like some of those that we're seeing here. So conventional wireless systems can either have a long battery life, or they can move a lot of data, but they can't do both. So if we look at conventional technologies and even some newcomers, they sit somewhere on this trade-off line between, again, long battery life and data throughput. Getting over this trade-off line and being able to move more data for less power is really an uncharted opportunity. And that's where Jeeva Tech operates. So how do we do it? A conventional radio is a bit like a flashlight. You take energy from a battery, you convert it to a radio signal, you modulate it with information, and you amplify and you push that energy out into the environment. So that's a power intensive process because you're emitting energy, right? It's complex, it's expensive to do that. In terms of silicon area, it's large on chip, et cetera. But there's actually another way to communicate, and that is what we do, which is backscatter. So with backscatter, you reflect energy to communicate. It's kind of like a signal mirror. And with this, you can move more data for less power. And because of the reduced silicon area requirements, we're getting rid of 95% of the analog and RF stuff that needs to go into a radio. We can actually do this at scale far cheaper and smaller. So you can think of conventional RFID systems, incredible achievement, battery-free tags, stickers that cost 5 cents. This is what's possible with backscatter tech. What we do is we bring standard protocols to backscatter. So we say, okay, we can talk backscatter, or we can talk using backscatter, but we can talk Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, LoRa, et cetera. So to make backscatter work, you do need to have some type of base station or host device that supports it. So that base station sends out what we call an illumination signal, which the backscatter device is going to reflect. There's no free lunch here. What you're doing is moving the power and complexity of generating the radio signal away from the low power sensor device and to the base station or host device. And then again, our secret sauce is that we're transmitting conventional protocols here. So it's Bluetooth, LoRa, it's Wi-Fi, it's Zigbee, and more. But again, we're doing it in this fundamentally different way. We can be intercompatible with commodity wireless chipsets, but also get the benefits of the low cost, small size, low power of backscatter tech. So this is what an implementation would look like in a consumer device. We could temporarily repurpose 2 of the many existing radios in the device to act as a transmitter and a receiver. And now this phone can talk to an ultra low power backscatter device using Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So the battery life and power requirements of something like a stylus are almost entirely driven by wireless connectivity. So this can have a huge impact on battery life and overall power requirements. So we actually see a high value in a number of different use cases. In machine health sensing, we can move lots more data for the same battery life, removing a capability limitation there and letting us stream sensor readings continuously, feeding analytical systems that can give better and deeper insights. Mobile device peripherals, as I mentioned, can benefit from enhanced battery life or ability to, again, move way more data, meaning they can do kind of more with less. So more capability, longer battery life. Long-lived asset monitoring tags on pallets or equipment could monitor and send alerts about environmental condition. And we'd have the added ability to track these assets much in the same way as an RFID system, but with some of the range and reliability benefits of conventional radio protocols. So these are just examples to kind of drive the conversation about what could be done. We think the use cases are really very, very numerous here. There's a couple different ways to implement the technology. You can actually apply this to an existing wireless SoC and augment its capability with a backscatter addition using a software-defined implementation. The second way is actually bring our silicon into your design. This saves even more power, up to 99% of the power can be saved in this method, and it can unlock additional benefits and give you access to more protocols. So we have some interesting traction. I'll kind of go through this really quickly. We've worked with a top-tier tech company, a major retailer, a leading consumer packaged goods company to explore what it looks like to apply our tech to solutions in those various areas. We've also had some government, public sector traction with NASA and the NSF. So we're seeking investors who have kind of connections and ambition to ultimately help us find our path in the semiconductor industry, who like big moats, but also understand the level of effort and resources required to get there. We're also looking generally for partners who we can work alongside with to find some awesome opportunities for deploying the unique tech. So looking forward to your questions. And again, thanks for the opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Aaron, for the presentation. All right, as discussed in hand raise order. Otherwise, I might take a crack at the first question just to get things going in the meantime. Can you talk a little bit more about the traction you have within the U.S. federal government? I know you mentioned it briefly, but
yeah, absolutely. So we've certainly seen traction across several different kind of sectors. I would say that the area that we've had actual funding in is the NSF funded us initially to bring this technology out of the academic research lab. So to make the transition from sort of academia to commercial product, the NSF helped us get over that critical hurdle with a couple of SBIR awards. And then at NASA, we've worked with Armstrong Flight Research Center to explore essentially backscatter as applied to wireless avionics. So you can imagine both flight test instrumentation and then in an active installed in-flight operational environment. How do we bridge gaps within a vehicle that conventionally would be bridged by a cable, but hey, let's see what we can do to get rid of that cable. That is often a simplifying factor in manufacturing and in many other cases where you'd like to essentially do a high bandwidth wireless link, but would not like to incur the typical kind of power issues that come along with adding batteries or adding power sources at the periphery. So these are some of the areas we've seen interest.
That's fascinating. The one with the cable is really interesting because it's interesting to be able to go wireless on certain. I'm sure it's very useful for certain use cases.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it kind of turns a set of trade-offs that are conventionally there on its head a little bit, because conventionally people think about, oh, moving from wired to wireless, we have to incur all these challenging trade-offs. And most of those, if you get back to the root, most of those are based around the power piece and the requirement to add, to worry about the powering of the wireless, the sort of peripheral side of the equation. And so when you remove that from the picture now, things get a lot more interesting. I think in some wireless sort of wired to wireless transition type use cases.
That makes a lot of sense. Perfect. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you so much for presenting, Aaron.
I have a real quick one if
go
there's
for
time. Is the time all right? Hey, Aaron, it's
Sure.
great. It's like a great solution, and I'm learning here. That's why I want to ask something quick. I know backscatter, technology. It's a lot to do with X-ray, right? It's like so could you explain? I'm trying to learn here, like I said. So I know like a chalk etching or, full body scan. How is it really different than what you're doing?
So the term backscatter is used a lot in a lot of different systems. I think there's a use of the term backscatter in things like sonar, in radar, also in you're talking about full body scanners that use kind of a radar methodology to kind of, what they're talking about is similar to what we do, right? They're shooting out waves and they're looking at what comes back. That's what we do too. We shoot out waves, we emit energy and we look at the reflection that comes back. The only difference is our little sensor is out there in the environment doing the reflection, and it's kind of like a signal mirror, altering, it's changing its reflection over time. And it can, in the way it changes its reflection, it can actually craft like a standard Bluetooth packet or a standard Wi-Fi packet that can be picked up by a standard Bluetooth or Wi-Fi radio. So I would say it's kind of just a conflation of a couple different terms that are a couple different uses of the word backscatter. But it's absolutely a similar concept.
Okay, so I think, like you said, so in your case, these sensors are the key right there. Gotcha. Understand. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, that's good enough. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Jonathan, you're the last question. Go for it.
Hello. So I'm wondering, could you talk a little bit about maybe the competing technology and maybe competitors? I think there's some company also doing the backscatter chips. For example, I think Hyla. I'm not sure if you guys are focusing very kind of direct competing kind of range of customer, but maybe you can help us.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're very aware of Hyla. So Hyla is taking a little bit different approach to solving a similar problem. They're also using backscatter to communicate at low power. Very, very focused on the power piece, very focused on home and IoT use cases as I've observed. But yeah, Hyla is another player in the field and certainly someone that is on our radar. I think that we, as the pioneers in the field, I worked on backscatter tech before that this was a thing essentially. So when we invented some of the basic fundamentals that go into these devices, so it's unclear from an IP perspective how Hyla kind of maintains their position into the future, I would say, just given some of the stuff that we control at this point. But at the same time, I see there's a lot of green field for, huge opportunity in low power wireless comms. I don't think that having other players in the space making noise and getting traction is actually any hindrance to us at all. So I would say Hyla's tech, again, a little bit different, a little more focused on sort of from what I've observed, sort of in-home, IoT type applications, a little less focused on high bandwidth and on industrial and defense needs and things like that.
Got it. Thank you.
Perfect. That's all the time. Aaron, thank you so much for the presentation. Feel free to post any information you'd like in the chat, whether or not you want to put your email or LinkedIn or whatever you may have. Feel free. Next up, we are going to have Compute.AI. I believe Joel will be presenting. Joel, we're ready when you are.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Let me share my screen. And, apologies to those of you who are seeing this for the second time. I know there's a little bit of overlap, but you may be interested in some of the new developments that have occurred in the last couple of months since we last talked. Is everybody able to see my screen?
I certainly am.
Great. So Compute.AI is software that is all about making compute abundant and efficient. And in today's world, compute is very inefficient. And that's the problem that we're solving. So I'll go into what is happening and why that is pretty directly. Our mission is to unlock the full power of billions of underutilized processors. So processors today, both CPUs and GPUs, are sitting idle. And the more compute you need, the more idle your processors get. So in today's data analytics space, you've heard me say before, we're seeing utilization rates of 20%-ish and shrinking as you scale out your big data centers. that 20% means you're leaving 80% of your compute power on the table. You're actually just wasting it, which is your most expensive resource within your infrastructure. GPUs there's less solid data on GPUs, but we know that they are sitting idle and they are suffering from the same problem. So our big problem is, as your demand for compute increases, your efficiency degrades. Customers need to purchase increasingly more amounts of servers, so they're scaling out in their data centers more and more nodes, more memory, more GPUs in order to maintain the same level of performance at scale with any kind of reliability. This is not just you buy one and you buy one more and you buy one more as your demand increases. It actually gets exponential in terms of the cost curve, and I'll show you that in a second. The technical reasons are network latency. As you scale out more and more servers across the network latency, things called shuffles, actually block your direct memory and processor access. So the larger the cluster, the more pieces of hardware in that cluster, the lower the processor utilization as your compute gets more complex. CPU and GPU utilizations fall as you scale out your clusters. So less than 30%, as I mentioned, for CPUs. GPUs, it remains to be determined. This results in lower performance and higher costs and higher energy consumption especially with hyperscale players in the market. Energy consumption is a real concern, just globally, contributing to a lot of waste and a lot of too much energy consumed. Reliability also starts to become an issue at these kind of scales. And like I mentioned, energy consumption, we're seeing about 5x infrastructure sprawl on the CPU side of things. So you're consuming 5x more energy than you need. So how big is this problem? Well, everybody is talking about this. So Sam Altman wants to raise $7 trillion to build AI chips development facilities all over the world, and he's soliciting people right now. 4 days ago, Michael Dell on LinkedIn is saying a GPU from NVIDIA will often sit idle if the storage can't feed data fast enough. Every GPU costs about $25,000 to $30,000. With global shortage, high cost, if you're getting any amount of idle in those GPUs, especially if you're buying a lot of them, this is extremely, extremely expensive. And then the last data point, Meta is probably going to spend about $8 to $10 billion on NVIDIA's GPUs over the next 2 years. This is just coming straight out of the Motley Fool. If you guys follow that press company. But just imagine if you're seeing 20% inefficiency in GPUs. That means that Meta is spending $2 billion extra on wasted infrastructure. We're seeing 80% inefficiency on the CPU side. Remains to be determined what GPUs look like. And then over on the right, the problem is exponential. This is one of my favorite charts. It's actually pretty old. It's like 3 years old now, but it continues to be true, right? The speed and the pace at which LLMs are increasing are just consuming more and more compute. And although, if you listen to Bill Gates and Sam Altman in the interview they did a couple of weeks ago, they'll say, we've reduced the cost by 40x over the last couple of years. So they're actively taking steps to try to reduce the cost of compute. It still can't assuage the demand that is coming our way. So what have we done? What is Compute.AI? Compute.AI, you guys have heard me call it a data lake solution, SQL-based analytics solution, right? We're still kind of grappling with the definition of what it is, but the software is essentially a memory tiering platform. So on the left-hand side, I have just a generic diagram of what the memory hierarchy looks like within a processor. Most systems today are in-memory systems, meaning they use only the memory available within the infrastructure, the DRAM. They do not use flash. By and large, the industry has gone away from flash because flash is a couple order of magnitudes slower than memory. What we've done is create a memory tiering platform which leverages all tiers of memory. So even within kind of your main memory here in this diagram, you have different levels of speed that are either higher speed and more expensive or a little bit lower speed and higher capacity, right? We're leveraging all of those tiers dynamically and incorporating Flash into our hierarchy and our tiering software so that we can achieve 100% CPU utilization. And we'll see how that translates to GPUs. What this does is it balances the core to memory ratio and it eliminates sprawl and increases performance at the same time. So instead of that exponential cost curve I described, you have a linear cost curve, and you're just, most importantly, you're getting the most out of your resources, your CPUs. So this is just an example on the analytics side. Existing platforms have that red exponential cost curve, the bigger they get. With us, we just drop in there and we make that a linear cost curve, and we reduce the cost at the same time. In the real world, we have a case study on the right-hand side here that shows 9x faster improvement with 4 users at only 20% of the infrastructure cost. So this particular case study, we took the AWS footprint from $55,000 a year down to $12,000 by shrinking it from 5 servers down to 1. And at the same time, we had almost 10 times higher performance. And as you can see, as the number of users grow, that's a representation of the complexity and the concurrency required for large scale systems. The Spark instance, the AWS, the EMR Spark instance without Compute.AI was not even able to run after 4 users because it had failures. It was requiring more memory and we weren't willing to give it more memory. So this is just a small kind of case study.
30-second warning.
30-second warning. Okay, so where are we? We're about 3 years into the company. R&D with only 4 engineers. Vikram Yoshi is the lead engineer, founder, CTO, and president of the company. He was the lead engineer on Exadata, and he's a serial entrepreneur. This is his 4th startup in the data and AI/ML space. We have a working prototype developed for SQL-based analytics on CPUs. It's beyond an MVP. It's been deployed in pre-production at a major Wall Street institution. It's ready to go to market. We have testing and validation underway with a Silicon Valley company to integrate Compute.AI with the CXL standard. CXL is a huge consortium of companies working on processor and memory improvements, including Intel, NVIDIA, everybody. And then we're in discussions with the top 5 flash manufacturer to explore offload to SSDs in hopes of improving cost efficiency. And we're also in discussions with one of the top social media customers to explore integration with existing solutions. All 3 of these strategic have asked us to pivot our engineering focus to GPUs. In order to kind of translate what we've done on CPUs to GPUs, it's about a 6 to 9 month process with our current team. And we're raising money to expand the team to go as fast as we possibly could after this opportunity. So for investors, we're looking to raise 10 to 15 million right now to grow the engineering team and to capitalize on the strategics that I just mentioned. For strategic partners, anyone purchasing or using GPUs, we should talk. We only have bandwidth to focus on a couple of projects at a time right now, but that's going to change pretty soon as we bring this funding round in. And for the military, we're requesting letters of support, introductions to relevant parties. Did I make it? 30 seconds?
Yeah, you did it.
All right.
You did it. All right, perfect. We already have a hand raised. John, go right ahead.
Well, excuse my limited knowledge of this market, but does your software run on device or is it also cloud-based? And if it's cloud-based, can you have an air gap solution that can run on-prem?
Yeah, so we have, we're all public clouds, we're hybrid, and we're on-prem. It was, initial development was with a major Wall Street bank. So I don't know the definition of air gap specifically, but I can tell you that it was built with the highest security compliance standards available in the public market. And I don't know that the military would require something over and above what we've done because we have a pretty robust solution from a compliance and security perspective.
Very good. Thank you.
Great. We have time for at least one other question. Han, did I see a hand raised over there?
Oh yeah, actually I did a little bit, but I think he just answered it. But I have another one. So what I know your product is just perfect in right time, right? So what is the like go-to-market strategy in terms of the industry? Because I know you have and I think you have a lot of leverage with your product industry. So do you have any specific strategy that you try to come after? Like you mentioned military as well, but in general.
We did. So, we have a partnership with a federal government contractor that can sell this into the military right now. We had a go-to-market strategy all lined up to launch, going after SQL data analytics, and that's what I've talked about in the past. But we're kind of looking at scrapping that right now because with this, even one of these strategic partners, I mean, I mentioned, Meta could save $2 billion a year on their NVIDIA purchases. That's the only thing worth chasing for us, right? So go to market means if we have one of these hyperscalers, it's going to require all of our focus and attention for a while.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, I think that's all the time. But Joel, I would look in the chat. There are two folks that are looking to connect with you. So I'd at least start the conversation there. Definitely post your information. Yeah, thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
Next up, we have Knightscope, and presenting for Knightscope will be Bill. Bill, the floor is yours when you're ready.
Good to see you again. Thanks for having us. My name is William Santana Lee. I am the chairman and CEO of Knightscope. We're a robotics and AI technology provider focused on public safety. The 7 of the 8 products that you see on your screen are in full-scale production. We spent the last 10 years developing a unique combination of autonomy, robotics, AI, and electric vehicle technology to give the 2.5 million officers and guards really smart eyes, ears, and their voice on the ground to be in multiple locations at the same time. We've primarily focused on business to business. As we scaled up, we've probably done more than $30 million of lifetime revenue thus far. Company's publicly traded, so unfortunately I have to put this slide up for a moment. As I'm an officer of a publicly traded company, I may make forward-looking statements. Our long-term strategy is to put 1 million machines in network that can see, feel, hear, smell, and speak and run autonomously. So our 2.5 million officers and guards are running 24/7. So at any given time, there's only 600,000 humans trying to secure 332 million Americans across 50 states, and that math doesn't work. And I can assure you that math doesn't work because if you look at the FBI crime clock, a violent crime occurs every 26 seconds and a property crime every 4 seconds. There are 3 opportunities that we're really focused on for entering the federal sector. We spent now 3+ years on a nightmare cybersecurity review process with the U.S. federal government, and finally recently just got our ATO, or authority to operate. Our sponsor there is the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, and the machine that you see on your screen is going to be deployed there to one of the VA hospitals, which is a good segue for us because we have multiple healthcare facilities as clients, and this is intended to help the VA police departments better secure the facilities. And as we spent the last few years going through that process, we think there's a significant opportunity to apply all our learnings from the field. We've operated now 7 or 8 winters and summers across every time zone in the US, through desert heat to polar vortex and everything in between. And we've got a lot of crime fighting wins, and we've shown this to be effective. And we believe in a lot of cases the federal government has very similar needs and requirements that the private sector has. And this is a unique opportunity to help the 13,000 guards at the Federal Protective Services improve the security around the FEMA warehouses, modernize the perimeter security for all the military bases. There's 10,000 federal buildings that could significantly improve their security programs, et cetera. So we've got more than our foot in the door with the VA, and we're starting to look at other opportunities with that product that's fully autonomous. The second opportunity is we have these blue light towers that are all across the country. I think in our machines and network, we have well north of 9,000 of these that are in desperate need of what I would call a massive AI public safety infrastructure upgrade. to get all these devices to do a lot more than they do today. And in a lot of cases, some of these are actually in military bases still running on a landline or on 2G or 3G. And we're looking to make a significant upgrade there and looking for partners and or market input as to what that next generation product should look like. So this is I guess the first one was mobile IoT or Internet of Things that move. This one's literally an IoT play. And then the last one is a new product that we've been working on to enhance perimeter security in much larger environments. So our profile product today can handle 1 to 3 miles an hour. You probably read the Bloomberg article last year. There's more than $100 billion been invested in self-driving technology, 200 plus companies working on it, and no one's pretty much shipped anything. Part of it is because it's really hard. We've proven that we can operate 1 to 3 miles an hour, and now we're working on the next stage, which is up to 10 miles an hour, and then eventually we'll walk to city and highway speeds. I'm an ex-Ford Motor Company executive, and I think the crawl, walk, run approach is a much more sane approach to the technology development for autonomy. And so this is the K7 that we're looking to have some input from the federal side of things as we develop this product and think about military bases, custom border protection, TSA, et cetera. And we're looking to have a running alpha prototype. This is a concept this year and start taking pre-orders for it next year. And I'll wrap it up with hopefully we one day can make this picture a reality. I would love this to actually happen. If you want the full deck, since we're publicly traded, it's readily available. You can download that at knightscope.com/rise, as in Rise of the Robots. And so happy to take your questions.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Bill. All right. I'll give a couple seconds for everyone to process it and open up the floor. Otherwise, I mean, I guess I'll take a little bit of a crack at it. In terms of the infrastructure for the emergency call polls, it might be a little frozen. Sorry, are you getting me, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure because it's a little bit slow on my end. In terms of that, what kind of traction have you seen there in terms of bases? And then I'll give the floor over to Christopher, who just raised his hand.
I think this is early days. We just got our ATO that we announced last month. So we are just starting the reach out. Primarily, we've been focused on the VA and just starting the discussions on the bases. For the early discussions that I've had thus far, I think there is an opportunity for an improvement in efficiency and efficacy of the existing security programs especially around the perimeters. But this is one thing that we want to look at is working with perhaps one specific military base to kind of reimagine what this could look like using our existing entire portfolio and then the next gen products of what that could look like.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Christopher, you're up.
Yeah, so pulling the thread. So Will, good to see you again from the last pitch a few weeks ago when I was at AFA. Been TDY for several weeks, so this has been just on the back burner. So definitely want to get with you offline. So Goodfield Air Force Base, all training for the Air Force under Air Education Training Command. A lot of safety concerns with all these 18, 21-year-olds running around trying to be an adult again as they learn how to be professionals. So definitely want to get with you offline. I know one of the questions that was previously mentioned was, is there a way to basically incorporate in the next gen system, kind of a WAP, wireless access point to enable kind of, a connected system. So definitely looking forward to at least cage the questions because I know we're running out of time here, but want to get with you offline to have that follow-up conversation over.
Excellent. I'll follow up with you, but I think there's certainly an opportunity there.
Perfect. Let's see if there's one more question. All right. I don't know. Do you want to take the question in the Q&A? I'll leave it up to you to read it. And decide to take it or not.
If you're already a public company, what kind of return can an investor expect? So I got to be careful with this. I'll try to reword the question. So I think we have an opportunity to build a $30 billion company that looks like a defense contractor, but instead is focused on the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, the 19,000 law enforcement agencies, and 8,000 private security firms. So one of the things that I love about the DoD side of things, there's one person in charge, the Secretary of Defense, $800 billion budget. There's a Lockheed Martin and a Raytheon, a Boeing to build a soldier, whatever he or she might need in a theater of war. On our own soil, we don't have that. Literally, the Department of Justice and Homeland have no federal jurisdiction over the 19,000 agencies. So every sheriff, every chief has their own process, their own budget, their own everything. And there's not risk capital. There's not an innovation process. And I can say this with a straight face. In the year 2024, there are literally security guards out in the parking lot with a number 2 pencil and a notepad. And we're wondering why crime and terrorism have a $2 trillion negative impact on the nation. I mean, the country's 200 years old. We're under 46th president. No one's ever fixed this problem. And so, you know, I was born in New York City. Someone hit my town on 9/11. I'm still profoundly ticked off about it. So the rest of my life, I'm dedicating to better securing this country. And we're going to force a victory here because the country is not set up to fix this problem. Now that we've got a portfolio of technologies working, I think we need to look at the holistic approach to the country, and that includes the federal sector. So to me, their market is humongous. I mean, if you look at it globally, it's 500 billion a year in security. If you take out cyber, maybe it's 300 billion, what we intend to do. The market for crime is never going to collapse. You know, it's not like there's a market risk. So is there a technology risk? Well, we've proven all this stuff works out in the field. It can always get better, but we've taken that out. And now we're just literally just focused on execution risk. So we're doing all the blocking and tackling now to scale up the company. So we've got a recurring revenue business model for a recurring societal problem. And I guess we will find out who's right in the end. But the one thing you don't ever want to bet against is people that keep showing up day in and day out in for the fight. And we've put in 10 plus years into it and still standing.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Bill. That was great. And I think that is the time for this session. So feel free to leave your contact information or whatever you choose to leave in the chat. And yeah, it looks like there's a bunch of interest. So definitely leave your info if you can. All right, perfect. My Zoom is a little laggy, everyone. So so I might be going a little slow because it's a little glitchy on my end, but hopefully we'll be able to keep the show going on. What I want to do is for the folks who just joined us, I would like to quickly have them introduce themselves because we do have a little bit of time. We're actually running ahead of time, which is very unusual for us. So I'm going to have, some of the folks that just joined, just say hello and quickly introduce themselves. So let's start off with Tobias. Tobias, you want to say hello?
Sure thing. So my name is Tobias. I'm with M Ventures, which is Merck KGaA's corporate VC arm.
Recording in progress.
Now we're recording. So we're doing biotech, healthcare and life sciences, but also semiconductors. And in the realm of semiconductors, we do a lot of things compute, so neuromorphic quantum, or from chip design to packaging, and also digital solutions. We're early stage, seed, and Series A typically.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. Naeem, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Naeem Raza. I'm a partner with Mighty Capital. Mighty Capital sweet spot is Series A, both in the SaaS software technology business as well as in the life sciences business. We focus mainly on software. And the big differentiator between Mighty Capital and other VC firms is that we have a sister organization by the name of products that count, where we have access to 500,000 product managers, and we give them exclusive access to our portfolio companies to coordinate and network with them for both for sales, for recruiting, as well as for exit.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining. Christopher Perry, you want to quickly say hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey guys, Major Perry, currently the Director of Operations at 313 Training Squadron, outgoing, incoming Air Task Force A2 at Randolph Air Force Base. So over 900 hours training by a national intelligence community for cyber, so I understand binary. Previous gave HQC Air Force Director of Operations San Antonio, Texas, and 503 team members. So definitely understand cyber comms, enhanced budget control authority, and where they're going. Looking forward to give advice and hopefully contribute. Over.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. And then the last person I think we're going to introduce for this session is Peter. Peter, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, happy to. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me here as well. Peter Cho. I work for a company called Worldwide Technology. I just retired from the Air Force about 3.5 months ago after 32 years as the chief of Integrated Warfighting Network. My role now at Worldwide is as a strategic advisor, helping the Indo-Pacific AOR effectuate their comms infrastructure so they can actually do JADC2. My main area of focus is on transport. Over.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Peter. And I forgot one person. David, you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yes. Hi. Sorry, I just got off a meeting. My name is David Chang. I lead the IoT team for West North America for Wesco, Fortune 181 company. Also the Chief of Intelligence for the California Army National Guard, so familiar with a lot of the different technologies out there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining. All right. In that case, now that we've introduced most of the panel, we're gonna jump right in. The first company presenting for this session is Solar Synapse. Feel free to start going whenever you're ready, Dan, and pause.
Asher, I think Dan may not have had the participant link, which would mean he wouldn't be in this break.
Do you guys want?
Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, he's here.
Perfect.
Dan, you're on.
Okay. I don't see the shared screen just yet.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen right now. Okay.
Okay, our company is called Solar Synapse. That's the name of the product as well. I think this is a very, very good example of an IoT product that has no competition and a huge market potential. The solar business is booming at 60% a year. It's definitely come into its own in the energy and utility space. But the remaining shortcoming is that solar panels today are, we don't want to call them dumb solar panels, but they're silent solar panels. There's no smarts in a solar panel. And with a little thumb-sized chipset, we propose adding smarts to a solar panel to monitor the voltage, the current, the power, the temperature, the relative humidity, and the barometric pressure, all the data that we can collect from the solar panel. This will be a OEM subcomponent to the solar panel manufacturers, also driven by the large utility scale developers, to collect data on a panel by panel basis and make a dumb solar panel a smart solar panel. Now, the problem was first shown to me in our Texas solar project I developed. When we first cut it on, the solar panels are wired in series in a string, and much like a Christmas tree lighting effect, when one panel goes out, the whole string goes out. So this can created an exasperated diagnostic problem to identify which panel is out. And solar panels are very reliable, but 1 in 200 solar panels will fail in their lifetime, which in a large 10 megawatt project equates to 1 panel every 3 months or 2 months. So having this data directly from the solar panel will accelerate the reliability and the diagnosis and repair of individual panels in a large panel array. Now, we can also identify if a panel is dirty, if it's cracked by hail, if a tracking system is stuck and the motor is not turning the panel properly. So every problem that we could see in a large solar array can be identified with the solar Synapse technology. Now, the market size for this is very large. Worldwide, $100 billion of solar panels will be sold in 2023 last year, and it's definitely a growth market with just a 2% market capture, which we think we can achieve in time for having a very unique product. That equates to $40 million in net revenue for this company. So we think it's going to be lucrative. My market analysis is that there is no competition in this space right now, and this would be a very easy add-on, adding about 6% cost to a solar panel and easily installed either in the aftermarket or at the solar panels manufacturing process. So bottom line is it will pay for itself over time because a solar project is designed to last 25 years. So somebody's coming in the room here. I'll have to shoo them off. So the project pays for itself. We already have assembled a team in Austin. I put in some seed capital, and we're seeking $5 million of round A money to take it to the next level. We're so far along on this now, we think we're going to have prototypes by the end of the summer and start the testing and go to market in first or second quarter of next year. So that's Solar Synapse, a unique IoT product that will change the solar business.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dan. We're opening up the floor for questions because it's a new session. Let's just reiterate. We're going to go to questions in order of hands raised. The hand raise icon is under reactions. If you can't do that, just ping me, turn on your video, or unmute yourself, and just go for it. Perfect. Naeem, go right ahead.
Yeah, so have you done any POC or you have any revenue coming in? I understand that it's still pre-revenue.
No revenue yet, but I'm actually parallel to this developing a 15 megawatt solar project in Central Texas. So through that separate company, Falcon Green Energy, we will become our own first customer and generate about a $4 million order there.
Thank you.
All right, Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got 3 questions, Dan. So you mentioned that the solar panels are typically done in series. Why is that, and why couldn't they be done in a way that's not as crippling as that?
Well, a typical solar panel is 48 volts, and by Watt's law, we want to up the voltage to 600,000 or even 1,500 volts. More voltage, less current, less losses in the wiring system.
Okay. And the second question is, you said that it pays back over time. What is the payback period?
We think in less than 5 years with the current known failure rate in a solar array and cutting the diagnostic time from typically a day to half an hour.
Okay. Third question.
It pays for itself through labor cost, and also bringing that system back online equates to lost revenue when it's down and recovered revenue when it's back up again.
Right. Third question is, you mentioned there's no revenue. Has anyone placed orders?
Well, I'm my own customer on the first order, but I think we're in a very good place as well because right now in the United States, there's 30 new solar plants being built or on the drawing board in the United States. 14 of them are in Texas. So us being in Austin, Texas, we're in a good place to develop relationships with those manufacturers. And I think that it'll be driven not only by the manufacturers, but their large customers, typically hedge funds and solar developers and banking systems that are funding large solar projects will be the drivers to ask those manufacturers to ask for the Solar Synapse option.
Okay, thank you.
All
Over.
right. Next up, Peter, and I think you're the last question.
All right, awesome. Hey, Dan, thanks for the presentation. Informative. And in relation to the problem, you said that the solar panels today are dumb. There's no telemetry. So I'm curious as to how what sort of instrumentation do you put inside these panels to effectuate telemetering?
It's a small chipset, and we simply pick up the current and voltage from the two wires. That's the other beauty of it, that the chipset uses milliwatts of power in a 600-watt panel. So it's a tiny fraction of the panel's power. So the panel itself self-powers the chip. So it's self-powered. And there's a junction box on the back of the panel. We easily fit inside that junction box. So it's just a simple two-wire connection to the panel to pick up the voltage and the current.
Is there any machine learning training involved in this telemetry?
We believe there is, because there's a tremendous amount of data. We'll be collecting data every 10 seconds from the solar panel, collecting all of that in the panel and in the cloud. And we think that through data mining and analytics, there's a lot about the reliability of the solar panel and many panels in a large array that we've yet to learn. So it'll be useful on the immediate sense and useful in the long term.
I'm curious as to that's great. Thank you for that. And I'm curious as to how you came up with the numbers also for $100 billion a year market share and 2 to 5,
well,
20%
that's published
return.
That's published information from CPA, the Solar Electric Power Association. That's the worldwide market. And the US has about a third of that market today.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dan. It seems like there's a lot more questions, so feel free to leave contact information in the chat, Paz or Dan, either one of you guys. Thank you so much for the presentation. Next up, we have Blastwave, and I believe Tom will be presenting from Blastwave.
Thank you. Paz, if you could enter the contact information.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody. So Blastwave protects cyber physical systems from some of the most pernicious threats. And one of the things that a lot of people aren't aware of is in the last 4 years, IT industrial security has gone from an afterthought to the crosshairs. Manufacturing was 6% of cyber attacks 5 years ago, and now it's #1, the most attacked industry, and it surpassed financial services. Furthermore, there's another elephant in the room. Generative AI has dramatically increased the ability of adversaries to steal credentials, primarily through phishing. There was over 1,000% increase in phishing emails since November of 2022. So this landscape is changing dramatically. And if you look at who benefits from this, you have these highly capable state actors and less skilled hackers, opportunists, cyber criminals. And what you see is that in terms of reconnaissance and social engineering, there's a huge uplift and benefit that is accruing to these types of adversaries. And unfortunately, In-Q-Tel published a recent blog that showed that the offensive AI capabilities are surpassing those of the defenders to keep up with them. So the question is, what do you do? Well, you focus on the reconnaissance and the social engineering and passwords, And that leads to Blast Shield, which is the first line of defense against Gen AI powered OT attacks. So we prevent reconnaissance through network cloaking, and we also deliver phishing resistant MFA that's very similar to Apple Pay. I spent a decade at Apple and wanted to pattern our authentication system off that. So you get, in 3 to 5 seconds, you've authenticated without having to remember a password, forget a password, or have one stolen. Now, looking at the dramatic difference between OT or industrial technology and IT, the issue is that you have a lot of legacy devices in OT that last 10 times longer than that in IT. There's no Patch Tuesday in manufacturing or oil and gas. Networks are typically flat, and an industrial process control person, engineer typically, gets security as a part-time job. So that's a very challenging environment, very different from IT. The ideal solution would be to make these networks invisible so that you can't see these old devices that are unpatchable, and you can deliver segmentation so they're not flat anymore, and it needs to be really simple. Current solutions today don't achieve that. Firewalls are see-through. If you have open ports, or if you have, you can essentially see through that open port. If you want to deploy an agent, it has to work on a modern operating system. Those aren't really existing in many OT environments. It's very complex to issue VLANs and access control lists. And what Blastwave does is we cloak the network, the device, we deal automatic microsegmentation, and it is radically simple so that you don't even need to be able to do command line, and basically anybody can do things. So we eliminate these top 3 vectors that account for over 99% of the attack surface. So phishing goes away, living off the land goes away, and even zero-day vulnerabilities as a threat vector go away, along with other software vulnerabilities. Our solution includes 2 components that form a handshake cryptographically that is, a secure enclave key in your phone. And I don't know about you guys, but I always have my phone with me for the most part. So it's almost as like a physical key in a way. And then whatever biometric you have, and it uses a rotating QR code that's not susceptible to replay attacks, and you can't steal a token. The software gateway can be deployed on x86 commodity hardware, Kubernetes clusters, containers, virtual machines. So it's very versatile to protect your downstream devices. And then the orchestrator can manage policies and groups on-prem or in the cloud. Our markets represent about, oil and gas, energy, critical infrastructure that you would expect. This TAM, by the way, is at our pricing. So this is a bottoms-up analysis. This isn't like taking a big number and multiplying it by 1%. Our pipeline of our top 12 accounts, 5 of these are existing customers. These other 7, we are in trial with them and have been working with them for months. So the account potential represents about $250 million just with these 12. If you look at some other initiatives in terms of our go-to-market, we created the OT Zero Trust Alliance that's composed of these companies, Darktrace, Nozomi, Swimlane, CloudBees, and Boston Consulting Group, so that we can deliver a complete solution, much like Palo Alto Networks just announced their Cortex product that, by the way, they're giving away for free for a while. We can deliver this as best of breed in one package that's integrated. We proved this with the US Air Force. We deployed the Zero Trust Alliance, delivered a project in 60 days that included 2 holidays. It was funded by the DoD CIO at a water treatment facility in Germany. And the CIO said, this was a miracle that we completed this. This was stunning. So this is a huge opportunity for us, and this doesn't even include other areas of Fed, Civ, or intelligence. Our partnership pipeline is equally large. We only have 4 million right now from Gray Matter, which is our key partner, and we are in talks with these folks to expand that. One of the key value propositions we bring is that you don't have to buy a separate MFA solution, a separate VPN or jump hosts, which are oftentimes prevalent in OT. You don't have to spend money or waste money on firewalls that are complex to manage. And you certainly don't need to spend money on expensive data diodes. Blast Shield does it all in one package. It's integrated, And it reduced upfront costs as well as ongoing costs. So we are raising $10 million. And, you know, the reason you should invest is because we've reduced product market risk. We've, you know, double-digit customers already, huge account potential. And we are knocking out competitors, IT competitors, who can't deliver those OT requirements. So TwinGate raised money at 400 million post, Tailscale 800 million. We just kicked these guys out of CoreWeave. And, you know, their product was 6 to 7 times slower than ours in terms of performance. We've only raised 8 million. I did that on a PowerPoint deck years ago. And then we've done 4.4 million in extension, not bridge. I had some VCs educate me about the difference between a bridge and an extension. So it was an extension because we had new investors. And I myself have invested 2 million of my own money. So this will succeed. In terms of what we're looking at for investors, we're looking at investors who understand cyber, they understand OT, and they have access to key decision makers in the ecosystem. We want to start, the pitches are starting this week. This is my 3rd one today. And we're looking to receive term sheets and make a decision by the end of March.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much for that presentation, Tom. All right, Naeem, go right ahead.
Okay, 2 questions. What's your expected valuation and what's your current ARR?
So our current ARR, I'm not going to give that over this broad channel, but if we want to gauge offline, I can do that. I can tell you our ARR grew 1,000% year over year.
And valuation, you don't want to say that either?
Well, valuation is typically what someone offers me. I don't tell the investor what the valuation of our company is going to be. So I can tell you that the valuation, if you look on PitchBook for us, was around 24.7 million at the latest valuation that's public.
Thank you.
All right, Tobias, you're up, and then Chris.
Yeah, it's a quick question, kind of like how are you currently pricing your solution actually? I saw on this one slide that you're combining a lot of different functions, including phishing and so on, and it's come down in cost quite a bit. So I guess first of all, that's impressive, right? But also, why are pricing it at this point, and actually what's that point?
Yeah, so with the way we price it is we price $1,000 for an orchestrator, flat fee per year. We charge $1,500 per gateway per year. We also have high availability options, and those can cover up to 50 endpoints. And then we charge $60 per user per year. So $5 a month, which is actually less than a Starbucks cost these days.
Yeah. In your explorations, like you have quite the pipeline, right? Like is there any kind of what kind of feedback did you get, if there was like a common theme to sort of quickly comment on?
Well, I would say the feedback we get is not verbal. The feedback we get is financial. So the first customer we got is placed like a $2,000 order. And, you know, now they're doing 200,000 with us per year. So, you know, our net revenue retention would be too many digits to fill the screen. So that's the feedback we get. We have yet to have a single customer churn as well.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Thank you.
Perfect. Chris, you're up.
Hey, so great presentation. I guess from the military utility of it, and I asked mostly from the standpoint of, since a percentage of how we access our networks are usually in a classified space, a SCIF space. Is there an alternate for authentication that falls outside of having your cell phone that unfortunately will not be available to me in a secure environment?
Yeah, I was
so much like.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
No. So I know several entities have focused more on the RSA piece, being able to actually have something, which at the end of the day is just a different level of authentication. I guess, have you considered, at least from the Air Force broad scope perspective, how to overcome that limitation over?
Yeah. So we have the capability to authenticate via other mechanisms as well. I personally prefer to do this, but I understand that's not really viable in a SCIF. And so out of the box, we have integration with the ability to use YubiKeys. Obviously, with the military and CAC cards, we can integrate with any SSO. And so there are multiple options for authentication that some customers prefer, even though I hate it.
Track. Thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. I think that's all the time we have, Tom. Thank you so much. And feel free to leave your email. I think there were quite a few questions and probably quite a few folks that want to connect with you offline. All right. Next up, we have QuoLab. And presenting is going to be Dan Young, I believe. Dan, you with us?
I am with you. Thank you, Asher.
Perfect. Good to see you.
Likewise, sir. I've dropped my contact information in the chat. For anybody who wants to reach out to me, you have my LinkedIn and my email address. And on the call also is my CFO, Andreas Pankau. So I'm going to jump. Thank you, Andy. I'm going to jump right into the deck, run you guys quickly through our product, and very much looking forward to any feedback and/or comments and questions that you may have. So QuoLab Technologies was founded in January 2020. We are a small company, 11 people in the company, rocking and rolling, headquartered out of Maryland. So I'm prior intelligence community background. I worked at the NSA for about 15 years, prior Air Force. Yeah, from a C&D perspective, computer network defense side of the house. So if you're familiar with NTOC and red team, blue team activities, that's where I spent most of my career. So the QuoLab XCIM platform is a platform that is designed to enhance collaboration and communication between teams and add visibility and automation to the SOC environment and intelligence analysis environments. So think of it as a hybridization of a TIP, threat intelligence platform, XDR, extended detection and response platform, with DFIR capabilities thrown in there. So digital forensics incident response. The product itself focuses on three main components, which is integration, automation, and transformation of data. Basically sourcing external data, internal data, and then doing analytics based off of the data that comes in, and providing value add to the organization in the form of obviously blending in intelligence value from your business drivers with your SOC or cybersecurity artifacts that you're visualizing and seeing, unifying your security operations centers, whether that's globally and also partners and network partners like ISACs and other communities of interest, and then allowing you to proactively outpace threats by staying ahead of the game and partnering and collaborating closer with others. At a very high level, this is a sampling of how the data feeds come into the platform. You have external CTI, which is represented in the threat intelligence quadrant, upper left, all the way down to DFIR and hunting, so connectors that feed data that you bring into the platform, say from your EDR, malware samples. It'll push them over into things like Polyswarm, Binary Ninja, and VMRay to give you dynamic and static analysis of those artifacts. Recursively go through those in an automated manner and pull them back, and then provide you with the risk scoring, threat analysis, and global tagging on those data sources. The data that we were just talking about is represented on the left-hand side of the screen. That data comes in through either custom connectors that are dedicated by, like, for example, Splunk, Elastic, and others, tools like that, Cribble and Apache and others, as well as an open REST API. That REST API is focused on allowing custom integrations from a customer standpoint. That data gets ingested on our graph data model, and we have a bunch of automation pipelines that are customizable by the end client, and goes through, risk matrix, kill chain mapping, and MLAI automation tools based off of either ours or partners. So you can plug and play basically each of these individual components within the stack. Quick point on the technology here is made mostly in Python. We made it to where it's, again, by the end user customizable, as well as they can just rely on the basics that we provide them, or they can also tweak and tailor it to match their ecosystem as much as they want to. Coming from a prior military background, and I specifically in the intelligence community with air-gapped network requirements, we made the platform scalable. So it works on-prem, so it can be deployed on something as simple as a laptop, all the way up to hybrid cloud environments with like AWS with hundreds of different nodes working together in concert. On the right-hand side is the output. Output takes the form of published content, dashboards within the environment, and then also feeding and pushing to whatever tools, SIEM, SOARs, and other repositories as an organization needs. A couple quick highlights that differentiate us on the market is our multi-tenant SaaS environment. So you can have if you're an ISAC, if you're a CPT, cyber protection team, or if you're a different entity that's looking to coordinate and orchestrate between different organizations or teams that have different repos, connectors, and data sets, QuoLab is an analytical baseline that you can connect and coordinate with a bidirectional sharing relationship between those. And of course, data ownership, tagging, ACLs, access control lists, and all those things come into play on that. GDPR compliant, by the way. And then the final thing is automating the automation of reporting. So what you see on your screen is a US Cyber 9-line based report. The Cyber 9-line based reporting is tailored by each organization as they want to. So they can either use our template, they can create their own template, and these are white labelable. So every type of highly technical data that comes out of the platform is mapped to business intelligence data, and you have a click of a button, create a published PDF. So spending hours working on that. Market traction, we've got several large VARs and one major partner. Dell Technologies is a core partner of ours. We have 3 different levels of relationships with them. I'm happy in a further, more in-depth call to go into details on this traction aspect of it. But we've really focused in on enterprise level deliveries with white label capability. So where MSSPs, ISACs, and others like that can say, okay, we love the tech, we love the capability, we just want to be able to leverage our, like if we're an MSSP, put our logo on it and brand it as ours and push it out to the client base. Very good traction as far as that's been concerned on the market in the last 12 months that we've actually been selling the product. Our ask is quite simple. We're looking for 1.5 million to continue to expand our product baseline and more importantly, deliver on existing contracts that we have coming up. So we need to grow the team, the support capability. Our pipeline is very robust and solid, and we're just looking for the support to keep that going. Thank you very much. Open for questions and or comments.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Yep.
All right. Floor is open. Yeah. So I guess I'll ask I'll take the first shot if you're okay with it, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the traction you already have within, let's say, the government side?
Yeah, so on the government side, we're working on several pilots. One of them was with FBI around critical infrastructure, where they are sourcing together 250 different clients or vendors in the critical industry sector and saying, hey, how can we create a unified ecosystem to where they can, if one is seeing an attack of X flavor, making sure all the rest of them are being updated and tracking on that and respond accordingly, and also diversify resources to where they can support each other in the next major attack, right, that comes in. That is right now being done via Splunk and a bunch of manual labor. QuoLab is going to automate that case sharing and process. The second one that I'd like to talk about is Dell's Project Fort Zero. We are part of the baseline for that. That's part of the NZTC, or the National Zero Trust Center program that is being executed out of Fort Meade, Maryland. Our platform is the analytics and sharing baseline that sits kind of at the head of the SOC ecosystem stack in that environment.
Perfect. That's awesome. I guess people are a little shy.
No problem. Sorry, I kind of blasted you guys too. I kind of went pretty fast through it. But
I could do one more while we give we'll give people one more chance to get their thoughts together, and then we'll move forward. That's okay. Then. If you want to talk a little bit more about just general use cases on the commercial side.
Yes, absolutely. On the commercial side, it's about that security orchestration, right? In bringing in your security control verticals within a given SOC environment. Number one, right? Being able to automate and coordinate all the different data points between those at a user level, layer 8 level, not at the technology level, which is what a SIEM, SOAR, and all that are really good at. But what they're not good at is translating that into like a case in a report and saying, what value does this have to my organization? What does having X email address being compromised mean to my team and my business use case. And then taking that from a myopic view and scaling it up. If, for example, you're Sikorsky, another one of our pilot customers that we're working with, and being able to have a kill chain where their tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 suppliers are all embracing a QuoLab node environment with a sharing community. Now Sikorsky can immediately be made aware when a tier 3 supplier of, say, what do you call it, like a component to their rotor blades has been compromised. Then Sikorsky can know to expect a supply chain disruption and or leverage tool resources to assist that entity or the organization recovering and getting back on track. So that's where, from a commercial standpoint, there's a lot of use cases that apply there. And by the way, the exact same thing in the financial sector. So the platform is not just limited to cybersecurity data. We also use the platform for, it can consume law enforcement data, as well as crypto data like wallets, transactions, Swift keys, and those kind of things.
Cool. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Thank you.
All right. Perfect. I guess we'll move forward for now. But Dan, feel free to leave your contact info for the people who get a little less shy and want to reach out. And
Definitely will do.
thank you. And thank you for presenting. All right. Next and last, we have Birdstop. Presenting from Birdstop, I believe, is going to be Keith.
Hey, folks. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining.
I'm Keith Meow, CEO and founder of Birdstop. My own background is in data science and satellite imagery. Started my career working in the public sector, Washington, D.C., and then later in the technology sector, leading a data science team at Google before founding Birdstop. And what we are working on is to be able to provide real-time intelligence for critical infrastructure facilities. Facilities such as power plants, ports, airports, transportation, telecom, etc. And we are in the process of bringing some of those capabilities to the federal space as well, and looking at where what we've built might be applicable dual use. And so, today we are not raising capital necessarily. We are not. So I don't come from that angle. I am mostly exploring the use cases in the federal space. So I would be grateful for any pointers that anyone has for us there. What we build computer vision, namely, and sensor systems, camera and acoustic systems, to assist in monitoring physical locations and specifically critical assets. We have a computer vision engine that essentially takes feeds from various cameras and sensors. So these cameras could be fixed sensors. We deploy our own sensor tower. We also use a number of third-party cameras to take in feeds, and they could be flying sensors, namely drones, with the goal of providing the most comprehensive physical world intel you could for a critical facility. And all of that ingested, processed, AI applied, and geospatially placed for a facility operator to understand what's going on and to be alerted if they're not watching and something has happened. Birdstop can be a software layer that is deployed on top of existing camera and sensor feeds, or we can come in with our first-party sensor products or bring third-party sensor products to configure the optimal intel gathering apparatus for your site. Our users, we have users that span currently both the public and private sector, but at this moment only focused thus far on infrastructure clients. So for example, in power and utilities, Southern company that manages the grid of Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Crown Castle with over 40,000 telecom assets across the nation, waste management, various public works departments, et cetera, that we've been working with over the course of some of these clients coming up on 5 years. Our team, our leadership brings backgrounds in computer vision and physical world critical infrastructure, drawing on places such as the U.S. Army, such as Google, NASA, et cetera. And backed by some of the top tier investors that have also spent a lot of time thinking about observing and analyzing the physical world. Our mission is to bring in AI-centric monitoring to the ability for us to secure critical infrastructure and facilities. And that's what I got for today. And as I mentioned, what we're really looking for here is to explore how the technology we've built can be applicable dual use. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Keith. Tobias, you wanna go? Go right ahead.
Yeah, looks super interesting, Keith. Great presentation also. I'm wondering, in terms of where you've seen most traction and why, like which verticals are those, and what do they see as their biggest value proposition that they just couldn't get done otherwise before?
Mm-hmm. I think the most straightforward and replicable use case is security. Security of critical infrastructure facilities. And security could span, it could be what you traditionally think of as, human intruders, for instance, bad actors, but more so it's times where, let's say, there is a contractor at this large sprawling energy facility that is unaccounted for. Could that be a safety risk on its, and if you had personnel monitoring all these feeds, they may have missed the fact that somebody had, or 16 trucks had entered this feed, but only 15 trucks came out over the course of these 2 hours. So the type of intelligence we provide is like a very astute and meticulous person that's looking at every single camera, synthesizing that information, and then moving cameras, for instance, pan, tilt, zoom cameras, moving it to the appropriate place, drone-based cameras, moving that camera to a certain place in response to things that we suspect may be happening that are interesting in that space. So I think, Tobias, to answer your question, the clearest and fastest value prop has been security. Various inspection, so actual inspecting physical assets, has been very interesting. I think there's a lot of long-term value in that predictive maintenance and being able to be the comprehensive intelligence engine for your whole site, but not as uniform as security across. Say you have a power plant, you have a port, your security apparatus is more similar than the site equipment inspection apparatus.
And so this is just to briefly follow up, energy infrastructure is one of those critical customer segments that you're looking at, right?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect. Peter, I think you're gonna have the last question.
All right, thanks. And Keith, from what I've heard, it looks like what you're looking at really is using computer vision to affect security of a physical environment, correct?
Correct.
And to that end, have you explored possibly using that instead of looking down on perhaps infrastructure or physical objects on terra firma, perhaps looking up to airborne objects that may threaten that physical environment that you're monitoring and protecting?
Absolutely. Actually, I didn't get into that depth in this presentation, but one of our competencies is airspace intelligence. So we have acoustic sensors. We have an array of cameras that look exclusively at the sky in order to analyze what's going on there. And we have clients such as airports that use our technology exactly for that purpose. We also use that technology ourselves to deconflict the airspace so we can use drones beyond visual line of sight. And you know, if you had to have a person there operating the drone, that kind of defeats the purpose. So we're able to monitor that airspace. We've got 5 FAA approvals for being able to use our system as an airspace deconfliction mechanism to operate beyond visual line of sight drones.
You know, crazy question. If we were to put this technology, say, on top of an aircraft, and we have, if you know, 4 ship of fighters inbound in some sort of aerial engagement, perhaps we can use such a camera to identify the weaponry or the ordnance being fired at us to inform our wingman of the said weapon system. That makes sense?
So real time, so it'd be on an aircraft and real time analyzing the things that are moving in that airspace and what might be threats.
That's right.
Do aircraft currently have these cameras?
I don't know. But it's an interesting question, an application of your technology. And I can't imagine that somebody else wouldn't have thought about this already, if this is possible.
I'd love to explore this some more with you, Peter. We process everything at the edge, so our AI is very real time, and potentially we could create that feedback loop right on the aircraft.
What kind of hardware do you need to use your models for inferencing?
So let's see so if you look on this slide, we've got this here. This is one of our sensor towers. All the hardware would fit in here. This is one of our drone nodes. All the hardware we need would fit in there. And then if we used a third-party camera, why I asked if there are existing cameras, then we would place a module that looks like a smaller version of this to attach that camera and have all those feeds processed locally.
So this is Sonic. Hey, just Peter, good points, right? And I really appreciate the presentation. So as I see how the Air Force is looking at agile combat employment in support of US Indo-PACOM, right? And I'm operating on island, whatever, at a forward operating site. What can I have organically to help me, 1, provide security, but then 2, to provide increased indications of warning, to enable survivability, right? So I think just constructive feedback, at least for this audience, at least this is the military members of the panel, how can I apply your technology, at least conceptually, to sign an MOA or an intent to say, hey, like, I want to be the Bubba who takes your concept and can neck it down to something at the tactical level, small scale, to show utility in the grander for future investment, right? So I definitely kind of voice with Peter. Would love to kind of get on that same email chain as the incoming Air Task Force A2 director, who will probably mostly deploy. How do I ensure my survivability? And, you know, is this a concept that's viable? Don't know. But again, at least for future discussions, I would love to get on that thread over.
Sounds good, Christopher. Connect with you and Peter. And Tobias, if you want to connect more about the energy industry use case, do that as well.
What are you asking of us, Keith? What do you need from us at this time?
I think input like you provided, Peter, of potentially this could be used on an aircraft to detect ornaments. These are, because us coming from the commercial sector, and although we've worked in the public sector, it's been, public infrastructure type use cases. I think to be educated on some of the things that you might be thinking about, so that we can see if our technology is applicable. I think that would be the first step. And then, of course, if it is, then we can work towards how we could be of value to your agencies.
How are you funded, and who funds your operations and all and research?
At this time, it is a combination of venture capital funding and client revenue. So we count quite a number of the large infrastructure companies in the United States as our customers. We have some larger multi-year contracts with them, and then we've got these venture capital and strategic investors funding us as well.
Thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Keith. It looks like you have a lot of following up to do. Oh, Peter, you have another question? Go for it.
Oh, no, sorry. I meant to lower my hand.
Oh,
But
all
looks
good.
like it was lowered already.
All good, all good. All right, perfect. It looks like you have a lot of following up to do, so feel free to leave your email in the chat, but also we'll send it out to those who request also, because that's part of what we'll do, and there's not that much time before the showcase ends. So probably better to copy and paste now when you can. So I'll give a minute or two for people to do that when they want to. Happy that everyone was able to join. Thank you so much to all the panelists and all the companies that presented. We really appreciate you joining, and we're really hoping that you guys are all able to connect offline and able to get things going and really get to dig into it. Thanks for everyone. This was a lovely event, and hope to see you next time in a month for the Energy Showcase. All right,
Thank you,
have a
Asher.
good one, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep,
Thanks, everybody.
absolutely.